Karine, can you tell us how you heard about CAP and why you chose this modality? I heard about CAP through a woman who followed the program and was thrilled with it. She referred me to Chantal Desmoulins, and I worked with you to follow the program for 13 sessions. It was a very good experience. I had recurring problems sleeping for a good 20 years, to the point where my doctor prescribed anxiolytic medication. In fact, my profession is conflict management. I'm an attorney and mediator. So you may imagine the stress that I bring home with me. When it comes to sleep, I don't like to take medications, so I refuse to take them. The woman I met who sent me to you is a reflexologist who had already helped me a lot with my sleep. And so, for my job, in order to better help my clients, I have to be steady and grounded. When you're a mediator, working with people in the heat of passion, people who are discontent and angry, this brings up strong emotions. The truth is that if you become affected by those emotions, you cannot help anyone. So my objective was to settle down and be able to take some distance to accompany my clients correctly. So it was the grounding that was the objective, to be able to do things, to accompany my clients without becoming invaded by their emotions, because that's true, I am myself quite emotional. I tend to absorb the emotions of other people. For my two goals, improved sleep and emotional grounding, which in my view are closely linked, an excessively emotional condition can have consequences on my sleep. Today, I can say that both conditions have truly resolved, because I never even have to think of taking the medications my doctor prescribed for those instances when I must handle a case that could cause me stress. What's more, my family circle tells me that I am much more poised, so we achieved the goal of grounding, and I truly feel better. I can handle things much better, one after another, without getting caught up in emotion, my own, but also those of others. This, for me, is a very positive transformation. It has been some time since you completed CAP. Would you say that these goals were achieved while you were following the program? Yes, absolutely. After the CAP program, I experienced a real feeling of renewed energy, or at least a return of my previous energy. I recall going to the mountains, benefiting from a deep dive into cold water, places where I could never go before, and I enjoyed myself. I had the feeling that I had turned the clock back several years, and I know that my job takes a great deal of my energy because I give so much of myself. But now I've restored my energy thanks to these sessions, which have truly been a gift I gave to myself. Were there other elements of discovery? There were two goals achieved. Did you learn anything else in completing CAP? Anything that you might not have expected? Yes. There was the element of musical accompaniment during CAP that allowed me to better understand drawings. Essentially, drawing was a novelty, a discovery for me, as was the input, the influence of music on the participants. What we wrote down on paper, that too was a revelation. But the exchanges with Chantal Desmoulins also taught me a lot about myself. They gave me the keys of interpretation on what I'd drawn with respect to the feelings I wrote down before and after the sessions, during the time we were given to write. But the greatest discovery was the influence that music has on, well, all of us. One has the tendency to intellectualize by saying, but what will I draw on this blank page? And finally, it was enough to hear the music, and things came all by themselves. Gradually, the music inspired us, and we discovered that we made drawings of things we never thought of. It's something that I never thought could be possible, because I'm very far from being an artist. I was quite pleased with my drawings. They taught me things about the explanations given to me at the end of the 12 sessions. Chantal made a very attentive, a very precise analysis of the meaning of certain drawings, the colors, the position of certain symbols, the relation between the musical theme and how it translated in the drawings. And that was almost magical. But it's true that it was a revelation to me how music could activate the unconscious through drawing. It's very beautiful. As you observed, it was the evolution, a surprising change in your drawings, compared to the fact that you had the impression of not being an artist. Yes. As I said, at the beginning, I was thinking about it a lot. Then, as we went along, I let things come by themselves. And it's true that I made drawings that took up more and more space. And at some point, I drew a carriage with horses. And at that point, I surprised myself. I was very content. Then a train. I never thought I would draw that. And there was a positive change. In the beginning, I was drawing fears. And I don't know what part I was intellectualizing. But as we went along, there was a blossoming. I recall drawing an ocean, a big ocean with waves I was jumping through. I leapt from the sea to a plank, which represented the vitality of water and rebirth. I drew the sea a lot, and sea creatures, aquatic life, and yes, many things that evoke rebirth, which gave me the impression of being reborn, and that felt good. In any case, I discovered the positive aspect of drawing, of releasing one's stuff on paper, and afterward, there was still an evolution regarding the position of the paper. At the end, I turned the page, in another sense, unconsciously, which was so meaningful in regard to the change in the process. That was something very satisfying. And the final drawing was a nice outcome for me. A flower drawn on ground that was being watered. Speaking of other aspects, in the Institute, we have a track about parenting to help parents educate their children in a more conscious way. And I think for you, there were elements of this order? Yes, absolutely. For me, that was very important. That was very complete. The program enabled me to unveil myself through these times of words, which are very important. I think in terms of needs, there is this possibility to talk. I need to talk things out. And I truly benefited from the exchanges with Chantal. Her very active and non-oriented listening gave me the keys to reflect, especially about children, because I was brought to speak of my children, of course. At first, we started speaking a bit about ourselves, our history, and we came to talk also of our children, of our method of teaching them, things about our own history that resonate in our children, and that allowed us to really think. I spoke to my husband about it. We had discussions, and still I continue to think of the information, of the constructive ideas about my two daughters that this process awakened. And I think that the process made me more sensitive to things that I wasn't aware of, which are very important to our family. You still don't have a very detailed vision of the Institute because we haven't spoken of it, and I imagine that you don't have the time to look at the site. You have a good understanding of our priority, traumatized children, but also our psychosomatic approach and the importance of art in healing. In a few words, with regard to your values and beliefs, what do you think of this multifaceted project? Well, I understood and was able to see that it was a technique, a very pleasant process achieved with gentleness, according to each person's individual pace, the rhythm of their needs. Nobody asked questions or made demands. Each person is able to seek things for herself. Thanks to the music, it's a dialogue one has with oneself, with music and with the facilitator, and all that is done with great gentleness. And I said to myself, as an attorney, emerging from this experience, that I would love it if schools all over the world could benefit from this project. I sometimes defend children who have made mistakes, who end up in juvenile detention centers, for example. And honestly, I believe that this method could help these children to calm down and find answers within themselves. I also thought of other people with whom I work sometimes who have psychiatric issues. In my opinion, this deep work could bring something more, something complementary to the medical approach and practice, something that has a more personal angle. That's what I thought.